When my husband returned from a suspicious business conference in Florida, he came home glowing relaxed, refreshed, and far too cheerful for a man who'd supposedly been working. One single question asked quietly, almost innocently shattered the facade he'd built around a secret luxury escape he thought I'd never uncover. As I tracked the truth behind his lies, I uncovered layers of betrayal that stretched far deeper than just a hidden trip. What followed was a slow-burning journey through heartbreak, strategy, and psychological warfare as I plotted justice in the shadows. And in the end, everything he tried to hide became the very weapon I used to take back my power. When I think back to that evening, I can still smell the salt in the Florida air drifting through the open window. The sun was melting into the horizon, leaving streaks of orange and pink across the sky, one of those picture-perfect endings to a long day. And if you'd asked me then, I would have told you I was calm. Maybe even content. But that was before the front door opened. Before my husband stepped inside with a smile so foreign, so out of place, it made something inside me tighten like a warning. I remember blinking at him. Because this wasn't the smile of a man who'd just returned from a business trip. No. It was the smile of someone who'd spent days wrapped in luxury and sin. He set his suitcase down gently, almost theatrically, as if worried he might break whatever fantasy he'd brought home with him. "Hey babe," he said casually. Too casually. His voice had that breezy lightness he only used when he was hiding something. And in that moment, I felt something shift. I walked toward him, studying the tan on his skin, the brightness in his eyes, the faint trace of a cologne he never wore around me. Where had he really been? He hugged me tight, warm, too rehearsed, and right then, cheek pressed against his shoulder, I noticed it. A small, glittering speck caught in the fabric of his shirt. Gold shimmer. Not from our home. Not from his office. Not from anything I owned. And suddenly, the sunset didn't feel calm anymore. It felt like a warning shot. But he didn't ask. Not yet. See, I've learned something about lies. They're like splinters. If you press too hard too soon, they burrow deeper. But if you wait, if you're patient, they surface on their own. So I smiled back. A slow, steady smile. And whispered, "Welcome home." Inside, though, my pulse drummed like a storm. He showered before dinner. Twice. And that alone told me more than any confrontation could. When he finally joined me clean, sweet-smelling, pretending he hadn't just been scrubbing guilt off his skin, I noticed the way he avoided my eyes. The way he kept glancing at his phone like there was someone else in the room with us. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream. But I kept my voice gentle as I asked him everything except what mattered. How was the conference? Did the meetings go well? Did you get enough rest? He answered each question with a comfortable ease. Too comfortable. Because now, I wasn't listening to his words. I was listening to his heartbeat, and it was off rhythm. After dinner, when he went to grab something from his suitcase, I followed him quietly. Not sneaking, just watching. He lifted his suitcase onto the bed and unzipped it. And that's when I saw it. A brochure. Thick, glossy, folded in half. The cover read, "The Palmetto Haven, Florida's premier luxury escape." Not a conference. Not a meeting. Not work. A luxury escape. My breath hitched. But he didn't notice. He never noticed my pain when he was drowning in his own pleasure. He stuffed the brochure deep into a side pocket of the suitcase, too quickly. Too nervously. And that's when I knew. He had something to hide. Something big. But I still didn't confront him. Not until the next morning. Not until the moment he least expected it. Not until one single question would wipe the smile off his face. The morning light in Florida has a way of being too honest. It pours through the blinds sharp enough to expose everything you don't want to see: dust, forgotten corners, and the expressions people think they can hide in the dark. That morning, it exposed him. He was in the kitchen, humming. Stirring his coffee like a man who'd just returned from paradise. His back was to me. His body loose, relaxed, carefree. And for a moment, I just watched him. Because there is something profoundly cruel about seeing the person you love look happy, knowing you weren't part of the reason. My bare feet made no sound on the tile, but something, instinct, guilt, whatever it was, made him turn around. "Oh, morning," he said, smiling that same bright, careless smile from last night. But now? Now I understood exactly why it unsettled me so deeply. It wasn't a smile meant for me. It was a smile left over from wherever he had been. I stepped closer, keeping my voice steady. Morning. He took a sip of coffee. Sleep well. Not really. Too much on my mind. His eyes flickered. Just barely. But I caught it. I leaned against the counter, folding my arms gently, not confrontational, just thoughtful. And in that quiet moment, I asked the question that would crack him open. A simple one. A soft one. One he never saw coming. Who did you go with? His hand froze halfway to his mouth. Coffee trembling. Eyes blinking too slowly. He frowned in confusion, or the performance of confusion. What do you mean? It was a conference. No. I'm asking who you went with. To the Palmetto Haven. The mug hit the counter too hard. Coffee sloshed over the rim. And just like that, the smile died. He stared at me, eyes narrowing. Searching for the right mask to put on. What are you talking about? He asked carefully. I didn't answer. I just held his gaze. Because silence, when used correctly, is a weapon. His jaw twitched. He swallowed. His fingers drummed the counter nervously. Then he tried again. Did you see something in my suitcase? His voice was too controlled. Too measured. That was when I knew the truth wasn't small. It wasn't innocent. It wasn't fixable. Whatever he had done, it was bad enough to make him afraid. And fear, in guilty men, is the closest thing to confession. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Look. It's not what you think. I hate that line. I hate that it exists. Because it always means. It's exactly what you think, maybe worse. He paced once. Twice. Stopped. Then he finally said it. I needed a break. A break. From what? From whom? I felt something twist inside me, slow and painful. I whispered, a break from me? His silence was louder than any answer. He stepped toward me, hands raised, desperate to regain control. No, it wasn't like that. I needed space. Time to think. He swallowed hard. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. I shook my head slowly. Carefully. Who was she? His lips parted. But no words came out. And that was all the answer I needed. Warm tears gathered behind my eyes. But I refused to let them fall. Not for him. Not anymore. I inhaled deeply. And when I spoke, my voice didn't shake. It's amazing, isn't it? How the truth shows up even when you try to hide it. He tried to grab my hand. I stepped back. And in that moment, the temperature in the room changed. Not physically but emotionally. We weren't husband and wife anymore. We were two enemies standing on opposite sides of a truth he created. He followed me around the house like a shadow, begging, explaining, denying, backtracking, cycling through every stage of a guilty man's panic. I didn't cheat. It wasn't like that. You're blowing this out of proportion. It was just a spa trip. It didn't mean anything. I swear nothing happened. Every sentence contradicted the last. Every word dug him deeper. Finally, I stopped moving. Stopped listening. Stopped giving him the benefit of the doubt he'd been living off for years. I turned to him and said something he didn't expect. Show me the photos. His entire body locked. What photos? The ones on your phone. Show me. He hesitated a second too long. And that hesitation was its own confession. He lowered his head. I deleted them. Of course you did. I walked to the window, sunlight spilling across my face. But I felt nothing. No warmth. No comfort. Just clarity, sharp and cold. Behind me, he whispered my name. But he didn't turn. Because in that moment, I realized something that sent a chill all the way down my spine. If he lied about the trip, what else had he been lying about? That question hung in the air like smoke. Heavy. Suffocating. And as I stared out at the bright Florida sky, I made a quiet promise to myself. I was going to find out. Every lie. Every secret. Every hidden truth. And when I did, he would regret ever stepping foot into the Palmetto Haven. The rest of that day felt unreal, like I'd stepped outside my own life and was watching everything from a distance. He hovered behind me, guilt dripping off him like humidity in the Florida air. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Not anymore. By evening, the house felt too small, too quiet, too charged. So, I left. I didn't tell him where I was going. I just grabbed my keys and walked out the door, leaving him in the kitchen with nothing but the sound of his own lies echoing around him. He didn't know that I wasn't escaping him. I was hunting the truth. I sat behind the wheel, breathing deeply. My fingers trembled not from fear, but from the cold, sharp clarity of knowing something was terribly wrong. I unlocked my phone, scrolling straight to the number that never failed me. My best friend, Leela. If there was anyone who could help me peel back the layers of this mess, it was her. She was blunt, brilliant, and allergic to sugarcoating. She picked up on the first ring. "You sound off," she said immediately. "What's wrong?" I exhaled shakily. He lied to me. About what? His trip. And probably a lot more. There was silence on the line, sharp, understanding silence. "Where are you?" Lila asked. "In the driveway. Come over." I drove. Fast. Her house was warm, full of soft lights and ocean-scented candles. The kind of place where secrets couldn't hide. She opened the door with a look that pierced straight through me. What did he do? I stepped inside, my voice barely holding together. He went on a luxury retreat. Not a conference. She cringed. With who? I don't know. She raised an eyebrow. You want the truth? I nodded. She grabbed her laptop and motioned for me to sit beside her on the couch. This place, Palmetto Haven, it's not just some resort. It's a destination for couples. Honeymooners. Romantic getaways. She typed quickly. I've seen ads. It's expensive. Exclusive. Her words felt like small blades. Precise. Painful. Necessary. She scrolled through photos of the resort ocean villas. My stomach twisted. That's where he was, I whispered. She looked at me carefully. Do you want to know what kind of packages they offer? I swallowed hard. Yes. She clicked again, bringing up a glossy menu of add-ons. Private massages. Sunset cruises. Couples spa treatments. Intimate photo sessions on the beach. I felt something inside me collapse. Quietly. Silently. My voice cracked. He booked at least some of those. I saw glitter on his shirt. Lila froze. Glitter. Gold shimmer. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. She leaned in, her voice low and serious. That resort uses glitter, infused oils during their couples massages. She paused. Only their couples massages. My breath caught. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't stress or imagination or insecurity. He went with someone. He touched someone. He shared something intimate with someone. And worse. He thought I'd never know. The room blurred. The world tilted. My chest tightened as the truth slammed into me like a wave. He really did betray me. Lila grabbed my hand. I'm so sorry. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Because heartbreak, in the beginning, doesn't look like tears. It looks like disbelief. It sounds like silence. It feels like standing in an earthquake before realizing the ground actually is splitting beneath you. I wiped my face. Straightened my shoulders. I need proof, I said. And we're going to get it. Leela replied confidently, pulling the laptop back onto her knees. Lila clicked through booking pages, guest reviews, travel blogs, anything that could reveal patterns or hints. Then she found something. A feature the resort bragged about. Private photographer available to capture your most intimate moments. She clicked the link. Scrolling. Scrolling. Until she reached a list of the photographers the resort worked with. Full names. Portfolios. Contact page. She stopped at one. Maya Santos. She read aloud. Specializes in couples shoots. Sunset sessions. Engagement, style posing. High-end clientele. I scanned the sample photos. And my heart dropped. Not because I saw him. But because I saw the style. The angles. The lighting. The poses. All of it. Was exactly the kind of thing he'd always said he hated. The kind of thing he'd refused to do with me. Funny how men suddenly love romance when it's with someone else. I steeled myself. I should call her, I said. The photographer. Lila hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. She handed me her phone. Use mine. He checks your call logs. Another knife. Another truth. Another betrayal. I dialed. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. Then, hello? A woman's voice answered, warm, professional, unaware of the storm on the other side. I swallowed. Hi, this is a little strange, but I'm trying to confirm if my husband had a photo shoot scheduled at the Palmetto Haven last week. There was a pause. A lot of guests book sessions, the photographer said gently. My pulse hammered. Yes. I gave his name. Another pause. One that stretched too long. Too careful. Too hesitant. I think I photographed someone by that name, she said slowly. I cut her off. My voice trembling. Voice breaks. Please, I just need to know. Another pause. Then a quiet exhale. Ma'am, he wasn't alone. Mavishan tu nalad. My breath stopped. I felt Lila's hand grip mine hard. There was another woman, the photographer continued. I thought they were married. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. Then she said something that shattered the last unbroken part of me. They looked happy. Happy. The word sliced right through me. My husband. Smiling, posing, touching another woman. At a luxury escape he told me was a conference. I closed the call without another word. Lila wrapped her arms around me, holding me as the truth settled into my bones. I whispered into her shoulder. I need to know who she is. And then, a cold, fierce calm washed over me. Not rage. Not panic. Purpose. I stood up slowly. I'm going to find out everything, I said. Every detail. Every lie. Every moment he thought he got away with. Lila nodded. And when you do? Then, I said, my voice turning sharp, he'll understand what betrayal feels like. He didn't go home right away. I wasn't ready. Not to see him. Not to breathe the same air as him. Not to pretend I didn't know. Instead, I drove. No music. No destination. Just miles of road and the raw ache of betrayal sitting heavy in my chest. The Florida sun was setting again. But tonight, the colors didn't look beautiful. They looked bruised. I walked inside without a sound. He was on the couch. Hands clasped. Eyes red. Like he'd been crying. Good. He stood quickly. Hey, where did you go? I've been worried. I cut through his words. I talked to the photographer. His face drained. He sat down slowly, as if his legs couldn't hold him. I continued. She said you weren't alone. He squeezed his eyes shut. Exhaled. Defeated. So that's it, he whispered. You know. No, I said. I don't know everything. I stepped closer. And you're going to tell me every detail. He shook his head violently. No. I can't. Why not? He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And the fear in his eyes wasn't the fear of losing me. It was the fear of someone else. Someone he had been with. Someone who had power over him. I can't, he repeated softly. If I tell you, everything gets worse. My heart skipped. What does that mean? He looked at the wall behind me anywhere but my eyes. She wasn't just anyone. I felt my skin prickle. What was she? I asked quietly. He swallowed. She was connected. He blinked. Connected how? He wouldn't answer. I stepped even closer. Who is she? His mouth opened. Then closed. He shook his head again. Imara mistok. Ahuja mistok. No, I whispered. You made a choice. And then, the first major twist cracked open. She wasn't who I thought she was, he admitted. I didn't know until it was too late. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. Too late for what? He whispered. She's dangerous. I stared at him. Dangerous? Not romantic. Not emotional. Not seductive. Dangerous. I stepped back. Tell me her name. He stood abruptly. No. I'm serious. If I tell you, you'll go looking for her. And if you go looking for her, she'll find out. And if she finds out. He stopped, breathing hard. My voice tightened. What happens if she finds out? He met my eyes with something I hadn't expected. Fear. Real fear. She told me. If I ever told anyone about her, she'd ruin my life. He blinked. She said she'd come after you too. The air left my lungs. You put me in danger? I whispered. By having an affair? He looked away. His shame was a storm cloud growing in the room. I was stupid, he said. I didn't know who she really was until the last day. I laughed a broken, disbelieving laugh. So you went on a luxury getaway with a stranger? A dangerous stranger. He nodded miserably. And now you're bringing her chaos into our home? He didn't answer. Because he didn't have to. Silence thick, suffocating answered for him. Something inside me shifted. Not grief. Not rage. Strategy. If this woman was dangerous. If she threatened him. If she threatened me. Then she wasn't just some affair partner. She was something else. Someone else. Someone with leverage. I stared at him, voice icy and controlled. You're going to tell me everything, I said again. Because if she thinks she can ruin my life, she hasn't met me. His eyes widened. And that fear? It doubled. The other woman isn't just a fling. She's someone with influence, power, and threats attached. The stakes just escalated. He didn't sit. He didn't blink. I just stared at him, at the man who once promised me forever, now trembling over a woman he barely knew. A woman he said was dangerous. A woman he was afraid of. I stepped closer, slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. Start talking. He rubbed his face hard, pacing like a trapped animal. She wasn't supposed to be that type of person, he muttered. I thought she was just some woman at the bar. It wasn't supposed to go anywhere. But then she invited me. And his voice cracked. I was stupid. No, I said softly. You were willing. He winced. Then he finally spoke. I met her 3 months ago. At a work event. My chest tightened. 3 months. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a routine. I folded my arms, keeping my voice controlled. What's her name? His jaw clenched. I can't tell you that. Why? She said, if her name ever came out of my mouth, she'd go straight for the person I love most. He didn't flinch. Which is who? He swallowed hard. You. A dark, bitter laugh escaped me. Funny. You don't betray the people you love. He looked away. He didn't argue. He sat down slowly, cautiously, as if the air between us might shatter. I didn't know who she was, he whispered. Not at first. But after the retreat, when I tried to end things, she told me everything. I felt the room shrink around us. What did she tell you? His voice dropped even lower. That she knows where we live. Where I work. Where you work. She knows our schedules. Our friends. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. And she said if I tried to ghost her, she'd make sure my life fell apart. He swallowed. She mentioned your name. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was threat. Manipulation. Extortion. I took a slow breath. What did she want from you? I asked. He wiped his face with shaking hands. She told me I owed her. Owed her what? Time attention, loyalty. He exhaled shakily. And money. My eyes widened. Money? He nodded miserably. I didn't pay her, I swear. But she asked for it. My voice dropped to a whisper. Is she blackmailing you? He didn't answer. And his silence was louder than any confession. I stepped back, gripping the edge of the dining table to steady myself. Oh my God. You didn't just cheat on me. You got involved with a predator. He looked up, his face pale, terrified. You weren't supposed to find out. She told me your wife can never know. She said if you found out, it would escalate things. I exhaled sharply. So she's watching us? He froze. She said she has people who watch things. She said she never gets blindsided. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a trap. And he walked into it willingly. I walked away from him, needing distance from his voice, his presence, his mess. But he followed. "I'm sorry," he said again, brokenly. I turned sharply. "Stop saying that." He blinked. "Say the truth," I demanded. "You weren't stupid. You were selfish." He flinched. "You wanted attention. You wanted excitement. You wanted something new. And she gave it to you until she wanted something back." He ran a hand over his mouth. "I don't know what to do." "I do." He froze. I stepped toward him, my voice low and lethal. "I'm going to find out exactly who she is. Everything about her. Where she came from. What she wants. Why she thinks she can threaten me." His eyes widened. "No. Don't get involved." "I tilltidmighed. You involved me the moment you lied." He shook his head frantically. "You don't understand. She's unpredictable. She's connected to people who can ruin careers. Destroy reputations." I stared at him. "And you believed her?" He didn't answer. Because the truth was obvious. He had no idea what was real and what was manipulation. I stepped even closer. "Tell me her first name." "Just that." His breath shook. "I can't." "You can." "I won't risk it." I nodded slowly. "Fine." He looked relieved for half a second. Until I said, "I'll find it myself." His face drained. He eventually fell asleep on the couch, too exhausted, too ashamed to move. I didn't sleep at all. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open, my mind racing, my heartbeat steadying into something fierce. Lila had texted me. "If he won't talk, we dig." And God, did I plan to dig? Names. Dates. Receipts. Patterns. Social profiles. Credit charges. Travel histories. Anything that could lead me to this woman. This threat. This stranger who tangled herself into my life without my permission. And somewhere between midnight and dawn, I found something. A clue. Small. Subtle. Almost invisible. But enough. Enough to track her. Enough to uncover the truth. Enough to start the unraveling of everything he thought would stay hidden. The clue I found was tucked into the metadata of a single photo file in his cloud backup, one he must have forgotten to delete. Not a picture of her. Just a landscape shot of the resort, but with hidden information attached. A name. One I didn't recognize. Yet. A. Serrano. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I whispered. "Got you." Lila was already texting. "Any progress?" I sent the name. She replied almost instantly. "Oh my God. Give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, she sent a link. An article. Local Florida news. Businesswoman allegedly linked to fraud investigation. A. Serrano. My heart jumped. Fraud. Threats. Manipulation. It matched too perfectly. But it got worse. Scrolling down, I saw it. Known for dating wealthy and influential men. Several accused her of blackmail. Multiple civil complaints filed. And then the final punch. Authorities believe she targets married men during their business trips. My blood ran cold. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't messy passion. This wasn't love. She hunted him. She hunted us. And he walked right into it. But what caught me most was a single comment under the article. "If she threatens you, don't stay silent. That's how she wins." I leaned back, exhaling slowly. So this was her game. Seduce. Entangle. Threaten. Drain. And my husband, weak, lonely, craving validation, was her perfect target. But now? It wasn't him she wanted. It was leverage. And I had no intention of being her collateral damage. I stood up, feeling something new settle in my chest. Strength. Purpose. A plan. He woke up groggy, confused, guilty. I didn't waste time. "I know her name," I said. His head snapped up. "What?" "Serrano." He looked like he'd been punched. "I told you not to." "No," I cut in sharply. "You told me nothing. She's a documented predator. She's targeted married men before." He stared at me, horror spreading across his face. "You don't understand what she can do. And you didn't understand what you were stepping into," I said coldly. He buried his face in his hands. This is bad, he whispered. This is really bad. I crossed my arms. For who? He looked up sharply. For you. He blinked slowly. Let her try. He shook his head. You don't get it. She doesn't let go easily. She doesn't stop. Then she chose the wrong woman to provoke. His breath hitched. She said she'd ruin your reputation. Your job. Everything. I stepped closer. And she thinks she can scare me with that? I leaned in. I'm not afraid of a woman who hides behind threats. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe he didn't. Because something inside me had changed. Shifted. Awakened. And he felt it. Lila called. I found more. A pattern. She uses the same tactics. Same timing, same script. Ifet adrenaline shurge. So we can predict her. Better, Lila said. We can trap her. I exhaled slowly. So this is it, I whispered. The beginning. She paused. The beginning of what? I stared at my reflection in the window. Not broken, not naive, not fragile, but sharpened by betrayal. The beginning of getting my life back. But then, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Blocked. Unknown. Hidden. I hesitated. Then answered. Hello. A woman's voice. Smooth, poised, amused. Slid through the line. So, she said. You're the wife. My blood turned to ice. And she continued. Her tone soft but venomous. I've been waiting for you. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the fan spinning lazily above me like it had all the time in the world. While my life felt like it was running out of oxygen. By sunrise, Florida's heat was already sliding across the blinds, striping the room in gold and shadow. But all I felt was dread. Because something had been gnawing at me for days, something I kept pushing away until it clawed itself back to the surface. My husband didn't just disappear for a luxury escape. He eroset himself. Completely. Deliberately. And now, every instinct in my body told me the truth was uglier than anything I had pieced together so far. So I did what any woman pushed too far would do. I started digging deeper. By mid-morning, I was sitting at my dining table, laptop open, fingers trembling as I clicked through his cloud backups data I wasn't even sure still existed. But it did. He had just forgotten. Or maybe he thought I'd never dare look. The first thing I found was harmless enough. Receipts, tickets, confirmations from the escape. But then, I found another folder. A hidden one. Locked. Encrypted. Labeled with a single word. Pinecrest. My heart stopped. Pinecrest wasn't a resort. It wasn't a hotel. It wasn't a beach club. Pinecrest was a private luxury villa community. And the folder's timestamp? It aligned perfectly with the dates of his so-called solo escape. My husband didn't go alone. So I cracked the folder using a recovery tool he never thought I'd know how to use, and inside, I found the thing that split the ground open beneath me. *** photos. Dozens of them. He resolution. Intimate. Happy. Not of him, and a stranger. But of him. And someone I knew. ***. Someone I trusted. Someone I once called my friend. Sierra. The woman who comforted me after my miscarriage. The woman who stood beside me at my wedding rehearsal. The woman who said, "You deserve someone who never gives you a reason to doubt." My breath broke in half as I scrolled. Pictures of them on a yacht. Pictures of them in matching robes. Pictures of her sitting on his lap. Pictures of them kissing by the infinity pool. Under moonlight I was never invited to see. I felt my whole body go numb. Like I was floating outside myself, watching someone else's life fall apart. And then I found something worse. Videos. I clicked the first one with shaking fingers. It was him. Leaning back in a cabana chair. Her arms around him. His voice low, smug, relaxed in a way he never was with me. And then I heard him say something that shattered me down to the bone. "I'm ending things with her soon. She'll fold easily. She always does." The world didn't just break. It rewrote itself. My husband wasn't just cheating. He was planning his exit. planning to toss me away like I was disposable. And Sierra, the woman who pretended to be my sister, was helping him. I slammed the laptop shut before I threw up. This wasn't a betrayal. This was an ambush. A coordinated one. A slow-burn demolition of my life while they lounged in luxury villas on my dime. And suddenly, all the small things he did made sense. The distance. The lies. The sudden push for me to quit my job. The weird emphasis on trusting him. The luxury escape. He was staging the perfect breakup. He thought he'd walk away clean. He had no idea I'd already started building the trap. By late afternoon, I wasn't crying anymore. Tears were a luxury I no longer had time for. I was focused. Cold. Clear. I grabbed a notebook, the same one where I once wrote grocery lists and date night ideas, and turned the first blank page into a new heading. Plan of retribution. And as the Florida sun set behind the palms outside my window, I wrote until my hand cramped. I no longer wanted answers. I wanted consequences. Swift ones. Sharp ones. Precise ones. Because if he thought I would just fold easily, he was about to learn what happens when a woman stops breaking and starts calculating. Around 9 p.m., an email pinged. From him. Subject line. Home tomorrow. Miss you. The audacity. But he didn't reply. Not yet. Because by the time he walked through that door, I would be ready. And he would have no idea what I had prepared for him. What would you do if the betrayal wasn't just an affair, but a coordinated takedown of your life? Let me know in the comments. And stay with me. Because what happened the next morning changed everything. That night, I barely slept, but not from panic. From anticipation. The kind of anticipation that hums like electricity under the skin. The kind that keeps your heart sharp and your mind sharper. I woke before dawn, made myself coffee, and opened my notebook again. The heading stared back at me like a promise. Plan of retribution. And so I refined it. Not out of rage, but out of clarity. Because revenge isn't chaos. Revenge, when done right, is architecture. Step 1. Follow the money. I started with joint accounts. He expected me to never look. But I did. And within minutes, I found them. Transfers. Recurring charges. Private payments to Pinecrest's concierge service. And then, an outgoing wire transfer scheduled for tomorrow. To Sierra. Not labeled as a payment, but disguised as a loan repayment. He was already moving money out. He was preparing for the breakup. He was preparing to vanish with her. I froze, staring at the screen, feeling the edges of my old self peel away. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was war prep. And I wasn't losing. Step 2. Consolidate power. I moved my share of the joint funds into my private account legally. Every penny traceable. Every action justified. Then I froze the outgoing transfer. And finally, I changed the two-factor authentication he didn't even know I still had access to. If he wanted that money, he would need to come through me. Perfect. Step 3. Control the narrative. He thought he had the story written already. Good guy husband. Tired of unappreciated marriage. Moves on to someone who understands him. But now, I controlled the timeline. I controlled the evidence. I controlled the truth. So I printed everything. Datas, images, receipts, videos, statements. And placed them neatly into an envelope labeled. For when he lies. Because he would. They always do. Step Quat. By noon, the house was spotless. Not welcoming. Sterile. Clinical. I needed him off balance the second he walked in. I needed him to feel like something was wrong before he even saw my face. I placed the envelope on the coffee table. Centered. Silent. Waiting. Then I positioned myself in the living room chair. His chair. And rehearsed nothing. Because the truth didn't require rehearsal. The truth was a weapon I was finally ready to use. Step 5. Bait the trap. At 3:11 p.m., my phone buzzed. Him. Landing soon. Want me to pick up dinner? My jaw tightened. I typed. Sure. Something light. Even though I knew he wouldn't eat. Not after what I had waiting for him. 15 minutes later. Him. Can't wait to see you. Missed you like crazy. Kraze. Right. At 4:06 p.m., the Florida sky dimmed under sudden clouds. That heavy, humid kind that makes the air feel like it's holding its breath. I dimmed the lights. I turned off the TV. I sat perfectly still. And when I heard his car pull into the driveway, every nerve in my body lined up like soldiers. He was home. The front door opened. His footsteps entered. He paused. He didn't move. Babe, he called, cheerful and clueless. Why is it so dark? I let the silence answer him. Where are you? He laughed nervously. Then he saw the envelope. And as he reached toward it, I finally spoke. Don't touch that. He froze. His head turned toward me. And when he saw my face, the smile fell right off his. Exactly like it was supposed to. If you were sitting across from the person who betrayed you, what would be the first thing you'd say? Tell me in the comments. He stood there in the doorway, drenched in the fading Florida humidity, holding takeout like some clueless husband returning from a normal day. But the second he saw my face, he knew. He didn't walk in. He shuffled. Just a few hesitant steps. Close the door. He closed it slowly. The envelope on the table seemed to glow in the dim, heavy air. As he stared at it, I watched the life drain from his face. Like he already knew exactly what was inside. I crossed my arms. Go on, open it. He shook his head. I don't know what you think. Open it. His hand trembled as he picked it up. He slid the papers out. Photos spilled onto the table like dead butterflies. Sierra smiling. Him holding her waist. Moonlight. Champagne. A luxury escape meant for reflection. His breath stuttered. Okay, this looks bad, but... I stood. Bad? You destroyed our life and that's what you call it. He flinched. His voice rose defensively. She was going through a rough time. I was just helping her get away. It wasn't what it looks like. I stepped forward. Then why did you tell her you were planning to end things with me? Silence. A choking silence. He opened his mouth. Closed it. He knew the game was up. But then, he did something I never saw coming. He dropped the papers. I wasn't leaving you for her. I laughed sharp, hollow. Oh, right. You were just cheating for sport. No. He swallowed. I was ending things because I'm being blackmailed. My blood turned cold. Blackmailed? By who? Sierra? He shook his head. No. Someone else. Someone worse. I stared at him, trying to piece together the madness. Explain, I said. He took a step closer like he expected sympathy. There was someone at Pinecrest. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone who filmed things. Things involving other guests. And they threatened. I cut him off. Are you seriously trying to turn your betrayal into a victim story? But he wasn't blinking. Not this time. His fear looked real. Look, he said, voice shaking. Sierra and I, that was a mistake. A stupid mistake. But I swear, I wasn't planning to leave you for her. I was doing whatever they told me to do so they wouldn't release the footage. I stared at him. Footage? Of him and Sierra? Or something else? He avoided my eyes. Which told me enough. What did you do? He collapsed onto the couch like his legs gave out. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I didn't know she was recording us, okay? I thought it was a private place. But then, my heartbeat pounded against my ribs. Who was recording you? And then he said a name. A name that made my entire body go cold. A name that didn't belong to Sierra. A name that belonged to someone I once trusted more than I trusted my own husband. Marcus. My ex-business partner. The man who tried to sabotage my promotion. The man who blamed me for ruining his career. The man who left Florida after threatening to make me regret everything. Him. Marcus. What the hell did he have to do with this? My husband finally looked at me. He knew we were married. He knew who you were. He planned the whole thing. He swallowed hard. And Sierra helped him. Everything I thought I knew. Everything I thought I had pieced together. Unraveled at my feet. This wasn't just an affair. This was a coordinated attack. A setup. A trap. Not just for him, but for me. Marcus hadn't disappeared from my life. He'd gone underground. And now, had resurfacet. Inside my marriage. My husband's voice broke. He told me, if I didn't go along with it, he'd ruin you. Publicly. Professionally. Everything. I staggered back a step. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't angry. I was terrified. Not of my husband, but of the fact that this betrayal went deeper, darker, and more calculated than anything I had imagined. If someone from your past resurfaced only to sabotage your present, what would you do? I didn't sit. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood there in the dim living room, watching my husband crumble under the weight of everything he'd done, and everything he'd hidden. Tell me everything. And don't you dare leave out a single detail. He nodded like a chastised child. And then the story poured out. He met Sierra, by accident, months ago. Except it wasn't an accident. Marcus introduced them at a networking event, claiming she was a PR consultant. Then, out of nowhere, Marcus invited him to the Pinecrest Villa, as a thank you, for a small investment referral. And of course, Sierra ended up on the same escape. Once they were there, Marcus conveniently disappeared, leaving the two of them alone. That's when the recordings happened. That's when the leverage began. Marcus hired Sierra. Sierra seduced him. Marcus recorded everything. Together, they crafted a storyline designed to blow up my life. Publicly, professionally, emotionally. But why? Why me? He swallowed, staring at the floor. Because he blames you. For everything. Mejaf clenched. Marcus had always been unstable. Vindictive. Obsessed with reputation. But this? Destroying my marriage? Using my own husband as bait? This wasn't revenge. This was obsession. And then my husband said something that made my stomach drop. He said he wasn't finished yet. My fingers curled into fists. He told me, my husband whispered, that he wanted to watch you break. That was it. That was the moment something inside me hardened into steel. Marcus wanted to break me? Fine. Let him try. Because breaking me meant facing a version of myself he wasn't prepared for. The version rising inside me now. The one who wasn't just hurt. Not just betrayed. The one now planning retribution. I walked to the window, staring out at the dusky street. Florida's air felt thick, charged, storm-ready. Give me his number. My husband jolted. What? No, you shouldn't call him. You shouldn't go near him. I turned. I wasn't asking permission. He flinched. He's dangerous, he said softly. You don't know what he's capable of. Oh, I do, I replied. Better than you. I extended my hand. Give me his number. He hesitated, then unlocked his phone and handed it over, defeated. I added Marcus's contact to mine. It felt like loading a bullet. I didn't call him. Not yet. People like Marcus don't answer to direct confrontation. They thrive on chaos. They feed on reactive energy. No. If I wanted to dismantle him, I needed precision. So I spent the next hour gathering every file, every message, every receipt that connected him to Sierra and my husband. I cross-referenced dates, merged timelines, created a map of every move they made. It wasn't just incriminating. It was airtight. By the time midnight painted the house in silence, I had built the first piece of my counterattack. A dossier. A complete reconstruction of their entire setup. And I wasn't done. At 12:37 a.m., I sent a single text. Not to Marcus. To Sierra. It contained one thing. A photo of her and my husband kissing in Pinecrest. Was overlaid with the words, "We need to talk." It didn't include context. I didn't include threats. I didn't include emotion. Just the picture. Because panic makes people sloppy. And Sierra? She was about to get very, very sloppy. I watched the typing bubble appear within seconds. 5 dots. Flickering on and off like her nervous breathing. Then finally. Sierra. What do you want? Not I'm sorry. Not. It's not what it looks like. Not we can explain. Just fear. Good. I typed slowly, deliberately. Tomorrow 2 p.m. You're going to meet me. Alone. I didn't tell her where. I didn't tell her why. I just watched her panic breathe through the screen. Sierra. Okay, just tell me where. But he didn't respond. Not yet. I let her marinate in the fear of the unknown. Because tomorrow was the first step. Tomorrow, I'd get Sierra to crack. And after she cracked, Marcus would be next. If you had the chance to confront the person who helped destroy your marriage, what's the first question you'd ask them? Tell me in the comments. He didn't sleep. Not because of fear this time, but because of clarity. I sat in the living room long after my husband had retreated to the guest room, pretending to sleep while his guilt ate him alive. The house was silent. So silent I could hear the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional rustle of palm leaves outside. It was strange how calm I felt as the hours slipped by. Like the chaos had finally organized itself into something sharp. Something useful. By morning I had a plan. Not the final plan. But the next step. And it required precision. At 2 p.m. sharp, I arrived at the place Sierra would least expect. A crowded cafe in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Bright, open, filled with people. No shadows. No privacy. If she thought this confrontation was going to be emotional or dramatic, she was going to be disappointed. This wasn't about closure. This was about leverage. She was already there. Nervously stirring a drink she wasn't touching. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. But her eyes were wrecked. Good. She looked up as I approached, and her breath caught. Please. She whispered. Please don't make a scene. I sat down slowly. Why would I do that? I'm not the one who should be ashamed. She swallowed hard. I know you're angry. Don't. I raised a hand. Don't insult me by pretending this was a mistake. You didn't fall into this. You executed it. Her lips parted, like she'd meant to deny it. But something in my expression stopped her. And then, she broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But her voice shook. He said, it wouldn't go this far. Marcus again. Always Marcus. Explain. I said. She kept staring at me like she wanted forgiveness. Like she thought vulnerability would save her. It wouldn't. How long were you working with him? Her eyes dropped. Since last year. A cold wave rolled through me. Last year. Long before the luxury escape. Long before my husband even suspected anything. They had been planning this for months. Maybe longer. Why me? I asked. Her hands trembled around her cup. Because you were the one he wanted to ruin. Her voice cracked. He said you took everything from him. I leaned forward. And you believed him? She hesitated. Then whispered. Hepoitme. A lot. Of course. Money. Validation. Attention. The holy trinity of manipulation. So you seduced my husband, I said evenly. You recorded him. You helped Marcus create a narrative meant to destroy my life. She nodded barely. I forced myself not to blink. Then you will undo it. Her hit snapped up. What? You're going to expose everything, I said. Every detail, every conversation, every instruction Marcus gave you. Everything he threatens people with. I can't. She breathed. He'll come after me. You don't understand. I leaned back in my chair. I understand exactly. Because he already came after me. Sierra's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, she whispered. He didn't flinch. Good. Fear is useful. Fear makes people honest. She swallowed. What do you want me to do? I slid my phone across the table. Record a statement, I said softly. Right now. Here. In the open. With witnesses around us and cameras overhead so he can't retaliate without leaving a trail. Her breath hitched. You want me to confess? On video? Yes. And if I refuse? Then you go to prison for extortion, blackmail, conspiracy, and several other charges that I haven't even told you I already have documented. She paled. You wouldn't. I held her gaze. You have 5 seconds to pick the future you can live with. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She picked up the phone. And she recorded everything. Every detail. Every demand Marcus made. Every manipulation. Every illegal thing she participated in. It was the single most explosive piece of evidence I'd collected yet. When she finished, she placed the phone down, shaking. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now? You leave Florida. Tonight. And you cut contact with Marcus forever." Her breath trembled. "And if he finds me?" I held her gaze. "He won't." She blinked. "But how do you know?" I allowed a slow, cold smile. "Because I'm going after him next." Sierra's face drained of color. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt in control. If someone who betrayed you suddenly wanted forgiveness, would you take it, or weaponize it? Tell me in the comments. I drove home with Sierra's confession playing in my head like an echo. It was enough to bury Marcus. Enough to tear down everything he had built. Enough to... No. Something felt off. Too easy. Too smooth. Too convenient. Like the universe had suddenly decided to hand me a win after months of hell. And that's when I remembered something Marcus once told me years ago, during a heated argument at work. If you think you're winning, you're already 2 moves behind. The memory hit like a punch. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Marcus was too calculated. Too strategic. Too obsessive. Men like him don't leave loose ends. And Sierra? She was the loosest end imaginable. If she broke this easily for me, she would break even faster for him. Unless he wanted her to. The thought froze me. What if her confession wasn't the victory I thought it was? What if it was bait? A distraction? A setup? I pulled into my driveway, adrenaline firing. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. The front door was slightly open. My blood turned to ice. I stepped inside slowly, silently. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Hello?" I called, barely above a whisper. No answer. I walked into the living room. And stopped cold. The envelope of evidence I'd assembled? Gone. The printed photos? Gone. My notebook? Gone. Every single document? Gone. But something new was on the coffee table. A single sheet of paper. I picked it up with shaking hands. On it, in familiar handwriting, were 4 words. "You're not ready yet. M." My breath left me. Marcus had been here. In my house. Inside my walls. Inside my plan. My husband rushed out of the hallway, panic on his face. "I tried to call you." He was here. I didn't know what to do. But I barely heard him. Because the message wasn't for him. It was for me. Marcus knew I was coming. He wasn't scared. He wasn't hiding. He was waiting. And he wanted me to know it. My phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. But I knew exactly who it was. I opened it. There was no greeting. No threat. Just a single video. I pressed play. And what I saw made my knees buckle. It wasn't Sierra. It wasn't my husband. It wasn't Pinecrest. It was me. A video of me, taken inside my home. Clips from different angles. Different days. Some as recent as last night. He'd been watching me. Recording me. Not once. But repeatedly. My throat closed. At the end of the video, he spoke. "You thought you were playing the game. But you're only now entering the board." The video ended. Another text appeared. "We speak tomorrow. Noon." I felt the room tilt. He wasn't afraid. He was orchestrating. He was controlling the timing. The pace. The tension. This wasn't a confrontation. This was an invitation. To something far darker than betrayal. And he wanted me to walk right into it. If someone infiltrated your home, your privacy, your mind, would you still confront them? Or would you run? Tell me in the comments. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, listening to the slow hum of the AC and the distant hiss of passing cars outside, counting the seconds until sunrise. Pause. And the whole time, my mind replayed that voice recording over and over and over again. My husband of 9 years, laughing with another woman, in the same hotel room where he once proposed we go for our 10th anniversary trip. By the time the sun crept between the blinds, I felt hollow. Like something essential had been scooped out of me. But I wasn't weak. And I wasn't done. If anything, I felt sharper. Darker. Focused in a way I hadn't been in months. Because now, he had leverage. Real leverage. That morning, I walked into the kitchen and found him already there, leaning against the counter, coffee in hand. He looked tired. Too tired. Like he spent the night worrying about what else I might know. Morning, he whispered. He didn't reply. I simply opened my phone, played 3 seconds of the recording, the part where the woman giggles and says, "You should have seen the look on her face when you texted her." He froze mid-breath. Then I paused it and slid the phone into my pocket. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Can we talk?" he finally whispered. "Later," I said. "Right now, I'm late." That was a lie. But watching him panic was the only thing that made my coffee taste bearable. And as I grabbed my bag, he stepped toward me, his voice cracking like a boy caught stealing. "Please. Just don't do anything yet." I stopped at the door. "Why?" I asked softly. He swallowed hard. "Because there's more you don't know." The way he said it. Quiet. Small. Almost defeated. It should have softened me. It would have a year ago. But now? Those words lit a fuse I didn't even know was still accessible. I leaned in slightly. "Then maybe you should start praying I don't find out before you decide to tell me." I walked out before he could answer. He texted me. "Come home, please. I need to tell you everything." My heart pounded so hard I could feel it behind my ribs. I drove home faster than I should have, palms sweating, stomach twisting. When I stepped inside, he was sitting on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. He didn't look up. "I should have ended it before it started," he said. My throat tightened. Ended what? Then he lifted his face and it wasn't guilt I saw. It was fear. "I didn't go to the resort alone," he whispered. "I know," I said softly. He shook his head. "No, not just that. I didn't just cheat." "Then what did you do?" He swallowed again. "I buried something there. Something big. Something I never told you. Something she knows. Something she's holding over me." My heart stopped. "What did you bury?" I whispered. He looked me directly in the eyes. "Money." "What money?" He took a slow, terrified breath. $230,000. My knees nearly buckled. My head spun so fast I reached for the wall. "What? How? Why?" He stood up quickly, hands raised like I might faint. "I didn't steal it. I swear. I hid it to protect us." "Protect us from what?" He closed his eyes. "From the people who want it back." The room went silent. Completely silent. I stared at him, my pulse hammering in my ears. "You're telling me," I whispered slowly, "that you hid almost $250,000. And now someone is threatening you for it." He nodded miserably. "And the woman?" I said. He hesitated. Then he exhaled shakily. "She's one of them. Not a random affair. Not a thoughtless betrayal. Not a moment of weakness. A woman tied to a crime. A woman tied to a large sum of money. A woman tied to him. And that changed everything. Everything." I stepped away from him, my voice barely audible. "So this wasn't just cheating." "No," he whispered, eyes on the floor. "It was a mistake that got out of control." I let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Out of control," I repeated. He nodded. "She thinks I'm going to run away with the money. She thinks you know more than you do. She's watching us." My blood turned to ice. "Right now?" I croaked. "Yes." My breath stuttered. "Where?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because when I turned toward the living room window, I saw a black SUV parked across the street. Engine off. Windows tinted. Not moving. Watching. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. And in that moment, even with the shock, the fear, the betrayal, something new ignited in me. Vengeance. Sharper than before. Colder. Surgical. I wasn't just dealing with betrayal anymore. I was dealing with leverage, blackmail, stolen money. And a woman who thought she could manipulate my life like a puppet show. She had no idea who she was dealing with. But she was about to. The engine revved. Just once. A low, warning-like growl that vibrated through the window glass. I stepped closer. Slowly. My heart thudding but my expression completely still. For the first time since everything started. I wasn't scared. I was calculating. I watched the SUV idle as if waiting for a signal. Behind me, I heard my husband whisper, "Don't go near it." He didn't turn around. "She wants something," I said quietly. "And she thinks she can scare me into giving it." He moved beside me, voice trembling. "I'll handle this. I'll tell her." "No," I cut in. "You'll only make it worse." He blinked at me, surprised. "What are you doing?" he whispered. I kept staring at the SUV. Taking back control. Then I did something that made him choke on air. I pulled out my phone. And waved. Not a friendly wave. Just enough movement to say, "I see you too." The SUV didn't move. But someone inside shifted a shadow leaning forward. Watching closely now. Good. Let her watch. I turned away from the window and grabbed my purse. My husband panicked. "Where are you going?" "I'm giving her what she wants," I said calmly. "A meeting." Then I walked toward the front door. He grabbed my wrist. No, you can't go alone. She's dangerous." I met his eyes. Cold. Steady. "So am I." He immediately let go. I drove to a public place, a massive grocery store parking lot with people everywhere, cameras on every corner, security carts circling like clockwork. If she wanted to intimidate me, she'd have to do it surrounded by witnesses. Smart people choose battlegrounds. I was feeling very smart today. I parked near the entrance and waited. 5 minutes. 7. 9. Finally, the SUV pulled in and stopped 6 spaces away. My pulse jumped, but I kept my face forward. The driver's door opened. And she stepped out. Tall. Confident. Too composed for someone tangled in stolen cash and a messy affair. Her long hair fell over one shoulder as she walked toward me, slow, deliberate, like she wanted me to absorb every move. She stopped at my window. Smiled. But her eyes were dead. I lowered the window 2 inches only. "Not more." "Bold of you to wave," she said. Her voice was silky but sharp. "I like that." "I didn't do it for your approval," I replied. She smiled wider. "Your husband told you something. I can see it in your face." I stayed silent. She leaned closer. "Let me guess." He finally admitted he hid the money. He didn't flinch. Her smile faltered. So she wasn't sure how much I knew. That was good. Information advantage was everything. "Let's cut the theatrics," I said softly. She tilted her head. "I want what's mine." I raised a brow. $230,000? She didn't blink. "Yes. And if you don't get it?" She leaned in until her breath touched the crack of the window. "People get hurt." My heartbeat slowed. Not sped up, slowed. I looked straight into her eyes. "Then you should stop assuming I'm the one who'll get hurt." That made her step back. Good. She wasn't expecting resistance. I took a slow breath, letting my voice drop into something calm and surgical. "I know where the money is." A flicker of shock crossed her face, the smallest twitch, but enough. "I had her." "I know," I continued, "that it's not where he told you it was. And I know he never planned to give it to you." Her eyes narrowed. She was trying to determine whether I was bluffing. I wasn't. "So here's my offer," I said. "You leave us alone. You disappear. And I make sure you get what you're owed." "What I'm owed," she repeated. "Yes," I said. "Your cut." "Not all of it." Her jaw tightened. "So you get the rest?" she asked. I stared at her with a calm she didn't know how to process. "After everything you did," I murmured. "Yes, I do." She froze. She hadn't expected that. She thought I would crumble. Beg. Cry. Not negotiate. Not take control. She stepped back from my car, reevaluating me. Finally, she said, "Prove you can get it." I nodded once. "I will, and when I do, we're done. You keep quiet. You never come near us again." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said something that chilled me. "You're smarter than he is," she whispered. "I knew it the moment I saw you. He's emotional. Predictable. Weak. But you," she smiled. "You're dangerous." Pause. He didn't smile back. "I'll contact you," I said, rolling up the window. "Not the other way around." She stepped away. But just before she turned back to the SUV, she said, "Don't take too long. People get impatient. And impatience gets people killed." Then she left. My husband paced the living room like a trapped animal. What did she say? What did she want? Did she threaten you? "She wants the money," I said. He stopped pacing. "And you told her that she'd get her part." He stared at me in disbelief. "You negotiated with her." "I did," I replied. "And I won." He sank onto the couch, hands trembling. "What do we do now?" he whispered. I walked toward the window, staring into the darkened street. "Now?" I said slowly. "Now we build a plan." He swallowed. "A plan for what?" I turned back to him, my voice low and steady. "For justice," I said. "And for our freedom. And for payback." His eyes widened. "What are you planning?" I held his gaze. "Everything," I whispered. "I'm planning everything." I open my laptop. And the screen shows a folder he thought he deleted. La palette de reallocation. The folder blinked on my laptop screen. A simple nome de reallocation. 2 words that carried the weight of months of manipulation, lies, and betrayal. I opened it carefully. Inside, files, coordinates, bank transfers, even a video of Marcus counting stacks of money. Everything he thought he hid. Everything he thought was untouchable. Now, in my hands, tangible and undeniable. I leaned back, letting the cold glow of the screen wash over me. And for the first time in months, I felt calm. Not victorious yet. Not satisfied. But in control. I glanced at my husband, sitting stiffly on the couch, wringing his hands. "Do you want to be part of this?" I asked. He hesitated. Then nodded. And that was when I realized I had become someone I didn't recognize. Stronger. Sharper. Vengeful but calculated. I was no longer the woman who had cried over texts and photographs. I was the woman who had set the stage. Who had learned the rules. And now, I would play them to perfection. First, Marcus needed to know that I was coming for him. Second, his leverage Sierra, the money, the recordings needed to be neutralized. Third, I needed witnesses, undeniable proof, and a strategy that left no gaps. Days passed as I coordinated, analyzed, and anticipated. Every text, every email, every habit Marcus had ever shown me was catalogued. Every weakness, every fear, every tendency was now a weapon in my hands. And Marcus? He didn't even know I was ready. By the 3rd day, I had all I needed. A map of his hideouts. A digital trail linking him to every crime. Recorded statements from Sierra. The precise location of the money. Everything aligned perfectly. The board was set. The pieces were in place. And tomorrow, the game would begin. If someone spent months trying to destroy you, and suddenly you had the power to destroy them, would you hesitate, or would you strike? The sun had barely risen when I made the first move. I called Marcus, calmly. No threats. No panic. Just my voice, steady, measured, and commanding. "Meet me at the marina. Noon. Alone." He laughed. A low, cruel laugh. "I've been waiting for this," he said. I smiled, a cold, sharp smile. "Good. Because I've been waiting too." I arrived at the marina early, wearing sunglasses and gloves. The sun glinted off the water like shards of glass. Marcus was already there, pacing, confident, smug. But confidence cracks under pressure. I handed him a folder, his folder. Inside, every illegal move, every lie, every extortion attempt, every crime meticulously documented. "You thought you could destroy me. You thought I would fall. But you underestimated one thing." I leaned in slightly. "Me?" He blinked. His smirk faltered. The realization hit him like a wave. Everything he had planned could now be used against him. His world, calculated for months, collapsed in silence. Then I did something unexpected. I didn't call the police, not yet. I let him think he had a chance to fix it. But by the time he realized there was no escape, the authorities had already received an anonymous tip with all the files. Marcus would face every legal consequence he had meticulously tried to avoid. I watched him leave the marina, flanked by law enforcement, and I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. Relief. And finally, closure. Sitting in my car, watching the waves lap at the dock, I reflected on the months of betrayal, fear, and manipulation. The humiliation I felt, the rage that consumed me, the plans I had crafted in silence. It all led here. Not revenge for the sake of cruelty, not satisfaction for the ego, but justice. Control restored. A life reclaimed. I realized, power doesn't come from anger alone. It comes from strategy, patience, knowing your enemy, and never letting anyone underestimate you. I finally called my husband, who had stayed behind during the confrontation, and we drove home in silence. The storm of betrayal had passed, leaving clarity in its wake. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you reveal your true strength instead. I looked at him and whispered, "Never again." And I meant it. If you've ever faced betrayal, humiliation, or manipulation, remember this. The power isn't in revenge alone. It's in reclaiming your life, your agency, and your peace. Have you ever faced someone trying to ruin your life? Tell me in the comments. What would you do if you discovered a betrayal this deep? Don't forget to subscribe for more true life stories of betrayal and revenge.